Hey there, Dear Tech fam, and welcome back to another episode of the Dear Tech Podcast. Today, our conversation is with someone who went from earning $2 a day in a factory in India to building a tech consultancy that has generated over $500 million in client value. And his story will completely change how you think about AI adoption. Now, what stuck with me most about Manuj wasn't his incredible journey, but his perspective that AI isn't really technology at all. It's a reflection of human consciousness, and it can help us unlock the parts of our mind that we don't typically access. And that profound shift in thinking isn't something that I've heard anywhere else. Manuj Aggarwal is the founder of Tetra Noodle, a bootstrapped consultancy that has helped over 10 million people and holds multiple patents. But more importantly, he has developed what he's calling the AI Merge Framework, a peer-reviewed approach to creating a digital twin that taps into your subconscious mind. In our chats, you'll hear a wild story about his early day internet side hustle that involved renting P.O. boxes to game an ad network, why he believes the days of large top-down corporations are numbered, and his revolutionary approach to hiring that uses storytelling in order to boost retention. Plus, his audacious goal of helping 20 people win the Nobel Prize. This conversation goes deep into places that most AI discussions never touch, from the spirituality aspects of technology and why he thinks that we are heading towards a universal high income as opposed to a universal basic income. Let's dive in. All right, Manuj, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Yeah, likewise. So let's, I want to just jump right into it because for me, one of the things that you wrote that I read that instantly got my attention, and I'm sure everyone will agree, earning $2 a day back in India. Tell me before that, leading up to getting into that job, what was life like? What brought you to that point? And then tell me a little bit about that experience.
Well, I mean, first and foremost, like I want to make sure people understand $2 a day is not like abject poverty in India, and especially in those days, you can still survive. And actually, the funny thing is, this was my dad paying me. Okay, so my dad employed me in the factory, and he raised me like a factory worker. And it was kind of surreal experience for me. I was very angry, very disappointed, and but now I realize the power of that experience. And the experience was pretty much like going to school, and then figuring out my studies, and then putting in 10 hours at the factory, working with like manual jobs and understanding how everything works, and all of like anything and everything I had to basically do. And through that experience, before that, I will say, I was just like a regular rebellious boy. I guess that's why my dad wanted to discipline me. Like I've been must have been in principal's office like almost every month for some reason or the other. And you know how life is, like it all sort of intermingles. My rebellious nature was due to the strict household. The strict household was wanted to discipline me, and then all of that started to feed on itself. And the ultimate thing was like I was working in this factory, working on my studies, and I learned so much about life itself in that factory. I learned about how business works. I learned about how scalable businesses work. Because in a business, if you want to make profit, you need to do the same thing over and over and over and over again, and you have to maintain precision. You cannot say, oh, okay, yeah, we produced 1,000 widgets, and 500 of them were 2 millimeters out, and 500 of them were okay. Like it's not going to work. So you had to maintain precision, which was literally like zero point 0.5, like hundreds of millimeters, like that was a accuracy or the precision that we needed to maintain. So all of that carries over now in my life. Like I have to, if I have to do something, like I need to really tweak it to that precise level. And it brings in a level of kind of like uh, perfectionism, but also the quality of the product or anything that I do goes high. So that was sort of the before, during, after this experience.
Well, so and just to reiterate, so you were 15 when you started. That's correct?
Correct.
And then how long did you end up working at the factory with your dad?
So around until 22, around 7 years, I was so rebellious. Like multiple episodes, I got like so upset, and ultimately, what happened was like I fell in love with a girl who was not from the same religion, and that was another kind of another pile of rebellion that I put on top of everything else, and ultimately that sort of put us so much at different wavelengths that I basically just left home and moved away. Yeah.
So until 22. So and along with the rebellion, was there a point where you were a little bit less? Because right now everything's in retrospect, right? You're looking back, you're like, you know what? I learned so much. It was great. From 15 to 22, right? 7 years. Um, was there a point where you're like, you know what? This is actually really cool, or were you just like, you know what? Working for my dad, I'm just gonna
No, not
slog
at
through.
all, not at all, not at all. Because my mind was always curious, like, okay, what is out there in the world? Like, what is it? What like I used to read these magazines, and I remember flipping through these magazines and learning about these tycoons who went from nothing to like multimillionaires, billionaires. I was like, man, like what do these people have that I don't have? Like, like they are enjoying life, like they are at the top of their game. I could probably do that. And then it used to be lunchtime. I was like, okay, come back to earth. And um, but that curiosity never died. And what happens is when you are curious about something, life opens up doors that you don't even realize. And it never like I will say, if at all I said, okay, yeah, this is cool, it was me explaining it to myself. This is my fate. Let's accept it, man. Nothing else is gonna come out of this. This is what life is all about. And then, honestly, I used to see other people around me. They were even in a worse situation. So I was like, you know, at least you are doing something productive, and you're like trying to make something out of yourself. Honestly, like I after school I went to a local community like local college. It was not great, and I fell in wrong company. People were doing drugs and all that, and then I dropped out of college in three months. So I was like, at least I'm not in that kind of environment, right? So yeah.
And so I want to quickly go back to when you're talking about precision, because I think that's the true difference. Because there are companies out there, right, that exist and that continue to exist, and they're not precise. And that company is usually the one that's like, okay, we need to make ends meet, we need to figure it out, we need to get from quarter to quarter, whatever it may be. But the real difference is when you're that precise, right? When you are looking at even a company that you own, or even if you're the CEO and you might not be the owner, it's stewardship, right? Like it's like, I'm responsible for this, so I need to be very, measure twice and cut once type of deal. So that's very powerful. And then so now you're in the world of software. So I'm still staying with your story, but I want to jump to your first experience with computers and software. Like so, you said you dropped out of college after 3 months. So was that after? Was that a little bit before? That something you came back to? When was that first brush with software and
Yeah,
technology?
so that was after. And then I was like, I have no prospects. Like, I want to do so much, and all I have is this job that I don't like, and college didn't work out. So what do I do? And then one day I found out, oh, there is a computer institute opening up in a small town, in the capital of India, Delhi, and other big cities. They've been around. They were around for like several years, and I used to live in a very small town, so they opened up, and I went and said, oh, maybe I can do this. Computers. This is cool, new technology that'll satisfy my curiosity. And they, the fee was like more than I used to make in a year. So I was like, okay, this is not possible. So then I said, okay, let me try to wait for next year and see if I can save enough money. So then next year I enrolled in that institute, and I just fell in love with it because like as an introvert, so I'm an extreme introvert, and an introvert, like working with machines is so awesome because like you can talk to them, you can tell them anything, they don't talk back, and they just obey. They just like okay, sir, I'll do whatever. And the even more impactful thing I learned was, okay, I can write a program, and I can just, you used to, there was no internet in those days, so we used to like, write a program on the floppy disk and then put it in different computers, copy it. So I was like, oh, I can write a program and then copy it to like 100 other computers, and then other people can benefit from it. This is amazing. Like, uh, I can just like reach the world. So all of these things combined, and then I met the girlfriend that I talked about earlier in the computer institute as well. So all of these things sort of converged towards me embracing the love for technology with open heart.
And then from there, talk to me about your journey landing in Canada. So I'm
Yeah.
assuming it has something to do with one another. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
how'd you get here? How'd
Yeah,
you get to
so
Canada?
I got married in this contentious circumstances, out of caste, out of culture, all of that, right? So I thought, okay, well, for all the trouble that I went through in life, at least I got something that I want. But society in India, especially in those days, in a small town, was not very kind. So we had a tough time like settling and just adjusting to society because of the kind of the weird relationship we had. And so that led us to say, hey, we want some peace in life. So what can we do? So then we decided to move to Canada, and that was around 1998.
All right. And so what was from there? So I'm assuming, did you have a job income or did you get the visa and then
Yeah.
came and
So we
went
got
for
the
it?
yeah, I got the like so my ex-wife, so that my girl was my girlfriend. She was actually born in Canada, so she was a Canadian. So we got the visa, and I didn't have a job, but I again I worked hard, and I got the job within like 40 days of landing, like really good job. And it was not a surprise, like it was the dot-com boom time at that time, so people were hiring like crazy. And I worked at this company which was actually a predecessor of Amazon. So they were building this online shopping mall, very similar to Amazon, and they had very good success. But also the timing was not, like their timing was great, but the timing of actually exiting was not great because dot-com bust happened, and so I lost that job. And then I tried several other jobs. I lost 4 jobs in 2 years because of dot-com bust, and nobody was hiring. Nobody wanted to talk about technology, and so then I said, okay, you know what, like this job security thing doesn't seem to be a reality no matter where you go. um, so I started my own business, so a consulting company, and I said, okay, whatever I used to do for one company, let me try to do it for like several companies. And everybody had some ideas, everybody wanted to do something, but they didn't know how to build technology. So I started building their products, and many of them were still successful product. Like two companies are public companies right now, so it was a quite a amazing experience. And then I started working with like large corporations, Fortune 500, Microsoft, IBM, T-Mobile, like on projects which were processing like billions and billions of dollars worth of transactions. So I saw like how business works at a scrappy level. Like you come up with an idea of having some drinks with a friend, write it down on the piece of paper, and then say, oh, okay, we're going to launch a company, versus Microsoft, which is like working with the giants of the entire world. And how do they manage, how do they grow? And every small little thing, they say, okay, we have a team of 20 people to handle this like tiny little project. So it was very interesting to see both sides of the equation.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned like coming up with a business with your friends, because that was my experience right after college. It's like Friday we start drinking, we start the business plan.
Yeah,
Saturday we're already IPOing.
yeah,
Sunday we have to go back to work
yeah,
tomorrow, right?
yeah, exactly.
And that we did that all the time. But the thing that's interesting, and I want to dig into kind of selfishly, because I'm kind of in a similar situation in terms of, when you're thinking about starting a business where you're doing what you used to do, right? For one company, you want to do it for a bunch of companies. It sounds, if you say it to someone who doesn't understand entrepreneurship, it sounds kind of counterintuitive. It's like, wait, you can't get one job, now you're trying to get 7, 8, whatever the number is, right? But the difference is, like, those companies don't think the same way when they're hiring B2B as
Yeah,
opposed to hiring an employee, right?
exactly.
But can you tell me a little bit about the mindset in terms of, like, deciding to do it is one thing, but the fear leading up to the actual execution and how you overcame that, or what the thought process was. And again, you're it sounds like in India your dad was an entrepreneur, or he was running the factory, so that's kind of something you saw. But still doing it, especially in a different country, there must have been some fear
absolutely
involved.
a lot of fear. I mean, one thing is that life has actually just sort of pushes you into the role that you're going to play. So it was not my choice that I needed to do that. It was just the situation was that, hey, I'm not going to be able to get a full-time job. Even if I get a full-time job, like in 6 months they run out of money, so the situation is not good. So let me just look for a part-time thing. And entrepreneurship is like, as you said, like when people hire an employee, it's like a lifelong, I mean, not lifelong, but it's like a commitment on their part and your part. You are actually getting into a marriage, sort of, right? But when you do these B2B contracts, it's like a very specific problem they are trying to solve, and they don't want to hire a full-time person to solve that problem, and probably they don't even have the employee with those skill sets in the marketplace right now. So they're looking for a very specific kind of a person who can solve their problem very quickly, right? So it's like a dating thing, for lack of a better word, like one night stand, and that's it. So the thing is that when you specialize in something that only you can do, then it becomes easier to say to people that, hey, if you have this problem, let me know, or if somebody in your network has this problem, let me know. And you have to be willing to take the risk, and it needs to give you the thrill. For me, the thrill was more important than money or anything, because I got to see how different industries work, how people think, how they solve their problems. Because at the end of the day, no matter what industry you are in, no matter what kind of business you're running, the problems are very similar, and 90% of the problems are people problems. So once you start to realize these patterns, and you say, oh man, like this company was an e-commerce company and they had the same problem, this company was an education company, this is the same problem, but they're solving it in so many different ways, and they all tend to think, oh, my problem is so unique, nobody else can solve it. That's the fun part. It's like, no, I've done this like million times, okay, let me just put it here. And they're surprised, oh, how come I never thought about it? And that's the fun part about this.
It's same with companies, with people. I used to say to some of my friends, I used to like go through things. I'm like, listen, you're unique. Your problems are absolutely not, right? Everyone's gone through everything, and it's really funny how it translates even into companies. So that company was Tetra Noodle, or did you
same? Tetra Noodle. Well, original name of the company was Spider Communications. So this was, when the World Wide Web was the latest acronym. So I said, oh wow, World Wide Web. So we want to use Spider. And now after like several, like 2 decades, people were like, Spider Communications, is that like a phone company? You guys install phones? I was like, no, no, no. So then, I came up with a new name. Seems to be catchy, but again, it was like a silly thing, how I came up with the name itself. But yeah.
But is there a story behind how you came up with it, or was it
Yeah,
just...
so it's like so my mind is very technical, and people don't tend to like really understand in terms of marketing and messaging what I'm saying. Back in those days, being an introvert, I had a hard time explaining. So I was like, hey man, like I need to come up with a name. I was talking to some friends, and they were suggesting, this name, that name, and I say go to this website, and they'll suggest name. And we used to go to this restaurant chain in Vancouver. It's very popular. It's called Noodle Box. So they serve different kind of like Asian noodles and fusion cuisine. We used to go there all the time. So we were sitting in that restaurant. I was like, hey, this noodle box seems to be very cool. What do you think about Tetra Noodle? Like, because they had this Chinese noodle takeout box. So I just said, I don't want to copy that name, but that box represents a square, and so I can use Tetra for that. It's like, oh, they said this is pretty cool, and I was like 2 beers in. I was like, are you serious? Like, are you kidding me? Like, no, 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 this is cool. Like, think about Apple. People relate to things that they can just understand. I was like, wow, okay, so so that was the story behind it.
I think 2 beers in is the safest amount of beers in to come up
Yeah,
with this.
exactly.
And everyone loves food, but no, I think it's cool. I also think like when I read it, I was like, well, sometimes, I don't know if anymore, but back in the day, it's like your head is your noodle, so it's like I was thinking of it that way. But either way, very cool. And so you start this company, in this, I will say, tumultuous time, right? Dot-com bubble is similar to like '08, similar to kind of sort of right now. At that point, tell me some, maybe, so again, I want to pause here. I wrote these notes down when I was prepping, so it's over the last week.
Yeah.
So I wrote down some things, and I'll read them verbatim, but it's random right now.
Sure,
but anyway, so I wrote 3 scrappiest decisions that you made at that time. So what are some things that you had to do that were scrappy, risky, not conventional?
So one thing I learned working in a factory, it's never the best product that wins. It's always the best known product that wins. So I needed to build a network very, very quickly in Canada, in a new country where English, I spoke good English, but it was still my second language. So what I did was like looked around, okay, what are the websites where I can find people who are doing business or whatever, and I found Craigslist. Craigslist is even today is a very popular site, but back then it was one of the most popular websites. And it was like really, very crappy user interface. Even today, it's surprising. After 2 decades, they haven't changed it.
I think it's on purpose.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I just like started sending out like email after email after. I used to wake up and just after having breakfast, like my whole day was okay, send out as many emails, as many contacts, and that was the scrappiest thing I think I did. And to this date, I think I repeat that pattern quite a bit. Like this very conversation is part of it. Like talk to as many people as possible and share the value, and like don't say, oh, what can I get out of this conversation. Just talk to people, and somewhere somehow you resonate with somebody and they say, oh wow, like this is cool, like what are you doing, I need this, or I have a friend who need this, like something along those lines. So talking to people. The other thing is creating websites. So again, I back in those days, I'm terrible at graphic design and whatnot. So scrappy thing was just, hey, let's get some templates going and use the website. And one of the things I'll share with you, I haven't talked about this ever on public. So I don't know if people will remember. There was a website called All Advantage. Okay, so this was early in the internet time, and online ads were just coming up. So this company came up with an idea that, hey, if you install our software, there will be an ad displayed on your desktop all the time. There will be a bar which will display ads, and the longer you keep that bar on your desktop, we will pay you like 10 cents per minute or something like that. Okay. So I said, wow, okay, 10 cents. I was like, oh, this sounds like a scam, but like, let me see. And then, I met a couple of other people online in the public online forums. They're like, man, these people are paying 10 cents. Like, they're actually legit. So I was like, oh, wow, okay. And what I did was I wrote some scripts and I said, okay, let's launch like 100 these ad bars and then, just simulate that, hey, 100 computers are using it. I'm like, let's just throw it out there. Let's see what happens. I started working. I was like, wow, okay, so they're sending me checks for like $4,000, $6,000. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like, this is serious stuff. And then I was like, and then they started saying, well, okay, I can send you 2 checks to one address because you have 2 people living in there, but like I want to get more checks. So what I said was, okay, how do I get more addresses? So I went to the post office, rented out like 10 PO boxes, and then started creating more accounts. So each of the PO box is getting like like it was this fun time. But then the company went bankrupt, obviously for obvious reasons. So yeah, so that was a story that I had earlier on. That was fun.
That was the beauty of the time. I think I've heard like several stories similar to this where companies were paying anything to just get themselves out there,
Mm-hmm.
and if you knew what you were doing, you're able to take advantage. But that's a great story. All right, and so okay, that's a really good story. I want to get into a little bit about your patents. So firstly, Tetra Noodle is bootstrapped, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's all you.
Mm-hmm.
And then touched 10 million lives, generated over $500 million in client value, right? And then, so from that, where did the patents come from?
So, when people work with us, they have these crazy ideas and they say, oh, I want to create this and I don't know what the first step is. So we do all the research, we hire the right people, we figure out the algorithms, whatever it takes to get that vision realized is that what we do, right? So, and now as we work on it, I never, like, honestly speaking, this may piss people off, but I don't believe in patents myself, like intellectual property rights and all, especially after AI. Um, but they want to patent these technologies. So it's basically working on these products with our clients and realizing their vision, and whatever comes out of it, these are the patents that we filed on their behalf. We actually worked with the patent attorneys to like really uh, make sure that the patent actually gets granted. There's no overlap with another invention and whatnot. So that's where it came from.
So it's mostly client decision.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Because I had the question and I scratched it out. I was going to say, why go the patent route rather than open source? And I was like, well, I don't know, want to offend, because that's a very personal decision,
open source.
Right? So.
No. See, open source is these are patents for products that we created. Open source is right now, after ChatGPT and all of these AI, like pretty much everything is going to be open source. In my opinion, like IP protection is a thing of a past.
Yeah. No, and it makes sense, because how are you going to protect it? That's going to be the question in reality, right? Mm-hmm. It's more so how you're going to protect it. Mm-hmm. All right. And so can you tell me a little bit now about, and just so you know, so the first part is a lot about you. I really want to get into your AI philosophy and like working with companies. Mm-hmm. But before we get to that, tell me a little bit about your because when you start a company initially, before all the accolades, it's you and a computer, and you're essentially an employee for hire, or now they call it fractional, whatever you want to call it. Now you're leading a company. Tell me about your transition into an actual like feeling like leadership, right?
Yeah.
And having to lead a company of that side.
Yeah. Excellent question. See, when you start a company, you say, oh wow, like, well, I have so many skills, I have a technical background, I have proven track record, and I think outside the box, and I can create all of this, and everything should just work. And very soon you realize like nobody gives a damn about all of that. Like business is about people, as we said earlier. They first need to like you, they need to trust you, and then they will consider working with you. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of like dance and pony show you need to do with people before they actually start working with you. And then when you hire other people, that's whole bunch of another level of communication skills you need to develop. You need to develop empathy. They're not just, when you lead people, they're not just like they're not following you because of you. They're following you because you help them become something. You help them realize their own dreams, and that's why they are following you. And unless and until you have that skill to really get into the minds and the hearts of those people, you will not really truly get what they are trying to do in their life. And if you cannot speak to that, if you cannot align your goal, organizational goal, their team goals to their personal goal in their life, it's not going to work. They may stay there for 6 months, or they may stay there for long, but it is going to be a transactional nature of employment. But if you truly sit down and say, hey, tell me, what is your life about? Tell me, just like you are asking me, tell me about your life. What happened here? How did you get there? And then you say, okay, what is it that you want in life? Forget about employment, forget about you're working with me. What do you want? Okay, I want to send my kids to college. I want to help my mom buy a home because she worked so hard. I want to travel the world. I want to do this and that. And then you start to understand the person and their objectives. And then you start to understand what they are good at, what their weaknesses are. And then you start to align the work that you give them to their long term goal and say, hey, I have a client who's in real estate. I think it'll really help you in realizing your goal of buying a home for your mom. So why don't you take on this project and see what you can learn about the real estate industry? If you want to travel the world, hey, I have this project that allows remote work. So why don't you hop on this? And like this actually happened. Like a lot of my team members, employees, they wanted to visit their family back home, Asia, wherever. I said, okay, as long as you do not give me a reason to say the work was not done, you work from anywhere, I don't care. And this is what how building their life, aligning with your building your business feels like. And that was a huge learning curve, huge.
So for you, was it always a goal for you to have employees when you started, or was it something that you were like, you know what, I just have too much work, or things are going really well? Like, what was that jump off point? Because I feel like there's two types of people who start businesses. One person who just wants to do their job, and then the other one who's dreaming, like, I can't wait to have X
um
amount of employees.
I think people have, this notion of having a plan, and then life says, okay, hold my beer, let me show you. Uh, you know, so it's like I believe in just going with the flow and doing what feels really enjoyable to you. So when I was one person, I was having fun. When I have more people, I'm having fun. Uh, it's life is a journey. It's at ups and downs. Like you will hear, like I encourage people to read the stories of entrepreneurs. It's never a straight line up. It's always like up and down and up and down and up and down, and the next moment could be a curveball that you never expected, and it can take you right back to the zero line. And if you enjoy it so much, it doesn't matter at all, because you're gonna do, no matter, like, even if you don't make money, you're gonna just keep doing what you're doing. A fish will never crawl out of the sea and say, I'm so tired right now, let me just take a break. It's just going to keep doing what it's doing.
Well, speaking of ups and downs, can you give me a down? Can you give me a
So
situation
many downs,
that
yeah, so many downs. Like, I mean, not having the money to meet payroll, having suicidal episodes, getting depressed, mom passing away. I didn't get to say bye to her. Like, deep painful moments, but each down teaches you a lesson, very very important lesson. And if you look at life in that way, then you say, okay, life is full of pain, and you expect pain. People run away from pain. I tell them, like, that is a futile effort. Embrace your pain and say, what is the lesson in this pain? And when you start to live like that, um, it starts to get so much easier, and your life becomes very rich.
wow.
Mm.
And that's intense, but that's absolutely true. And I think, again, and not to just keep bringing it back to entrepreneurship, but I think because it can be a microcosm of our actual lives. Like, we can not live through people, but kind of see the different turns and being able to continue on. We always hear, and this isn't life things, but business things, where it's like, oh yeah, FedEx had won because the owner went and played blackjack all night in Vegas and saved the company, stuff like that, right? So, no, thank you for sharing that with us, for sure. So now I want to jump into the thing that every single podcast about technology is talking about. We're talking about AI. Everyone's talking about it. But before we get into just the generalness, you have an AI adoption blueprint.
Mm.
And I would love if you could give us a quick overview, or what is that, and how did you come up with it?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, see, a lot of people, talk about technology, talk about AI, and I I have worked on algorithms which are, sort of, which were foundational for things like OpenAI. So I understand this technology very deeply. And the other thing is, I also understand human mind very deeply because of my episodes with suicidal thinking and all of that. So I've been meditating deeply for the last 15 years. So I understand how the mind works. And if we start to look at AI as a technology, we are already mistaken. This is a reflection of our consciousness. Okay. So as humans, we all have a lifespan of, average 80 to 100 years, and we accumulate knowledge and experiences based on our life, and then we get a little bit from our parents and our society, and we tend to live in that universe all our life. Okay, what AI is, it is the sum total of human consciousness for the last 10,000 years. and we can tap into that instantly. So you know how you must have heard this saying, humans only have access to 10% of our mind. If you truly understand this technology, we can get the access to the 90% and beyond with this technology. So the framework that we have, it's now a peer reviewed scientific framework which was published in a very prestigious scientific research journal called the Mensa Research Journal. And what it is how to adopt AI in a human centric way such that it empowers humanity, empowers teams, empowers organizations, rather than kind of replacing them or getting, just making their day to day work faster, which of course it does. But technology, if it's not very well aligned with who humans are, it doesn't work. It doesn't fly. So the framework that we have, it's called AI merge, and the idea is we merge we merge the subconscious mind. Your logical thinking is only 5% of your mind. The actual part of your mind that controls your life and the outcomes you see, it's the subconscious mind. Okay, and that controls 90 to 95% of your actions, your results, and everything. So our work is about merging the subconscious part of your mind with AI in such a way that it becomes a super intelligent digital twin of you. And now you can tap into it and you can basically transform your life, transform your organization, because you have very well aligned, super intelligent digital twin at your fingertips.
Yeah, so that actually goes right into talking about it digital, because I was going to ask about the digital twin. So and I'm going to let you obviously speak to it, but before that, when I think of the way that I've been using AI, and I've been using it probably seriously for a few years now. I actually tried fighting it. I was like, you know what? I don't want to learn something new again, which is hilarious because my parents used to say that, and I'm like, I used to be like, why? Anyway, for me, I do my best to feed it as much data about myself. And some people are against it, but for me, it's like I've done things where I'm like, hey, give me 3 writing prompts so you can write like me, right? Like I've done that and I've written the prompt and I've fed it to it so now it can write like me. I'll do things like that. And for me, that's maybe, a level X of creating a twin, right? But what does it mean to truly create an AI twin? And are we talking about more so creating like a GPT that thinks like you? Like what's the exact idea behind it?
See, all of that what you said is true. But what is the difference here is we first and foremost tap into your subconscious mind, your soul, and we extract the data about your past life experiences. As we said earlier, life is just basically a series of ebbs and flows. And if you think about your life, you remember specific points in your life, specific incidents that happened in your life, and the key takeaways you took from those incidents. Somebody bullied you in school, somebody, your first kiss, or all of that, good, bad, and ugly. Once you start to list all of these things, that is the essence of your soul, and then you feed that into AI. So it could be custom GPT, it could be fine tuning, it could be whatever. But now this AI is now emotionally making decisions the way that you feel emotions in this world. Okay, and that is the key difference. Once that is ready, then how to use it. So this is a Ferrari. How do you drive a Ferrari? Like if I give a Ferrari to a teenager, they're going to run into sidewalks and all of that. How do you drive a Ferrari? And that's where AI merge framework comes in. So it's like 5 pillars. The first one being purpose. What is your purpose in life? Most 99% of humanity comes to this planet without realizing what is the meaning of life. Many others, they go to the jungles or the monasteries to find, okay, what is the meaning of life. Once you have this digital twin, it can it can start to move you towards your purpose within 15 minutes, and then you start to align all your life decisions, big or small, with your high level purpose. Okay, the second thing is identity, self identity. So once you have your purpose, this is the direction you want to move in. Then comes a point where, okay, um, how do you accomplish big goals? By the way, my big goal, my big hairy goal in life is helping 20 people win the Nobel Prize. Okay. um, and it may sound crazy, and when it came to me, it was crazy, and a lot of people call me crazy. But now I'm in touch with people who are being considered for Nobel Prize, and they are doing Nobel Prize worthy work. So this is about self identity. Who you like. The world doesn't give you what you want or what you need. The world gives you who you truly think you are inside. When you look deep inside your soul, who you truly think you are, the world is going to reflect you. And that takes decades of therapy, all the baggage that we carry. But with this digital twin, once you truly understand how to use it, it shifts your identity within 2 to 4 weeks. You start to feel like a new human being. Moreover, people around you start to see you like a new human being. Okay. So that's the self identity. The third one is relationships. So relationships is all, I mean, everything in life is relationships. And we don't have the right means. It's funny that we teach our kids physics, maths, and all of this, but we never give a manual, owner's manual, for dealing with the human being sitting next to them. Okay. And we teach them all these things, and for like till they are like, in their adulthood, and then we throw them into the open world and say, okay, good luck with everything. you know so teaching how to build relationships, that's the third thing. Fourth thing is creativity or courage, because people want good results in their life, but they're not willing to take any action. Okay. And the reason why not they don't take action is not because they are lazy or whatever. They are just afraid of being a failure and people laughing at them. So they don't even take the first step. But with this digital twin, what you can say to it is, hey, look, I have this crazy goal of helping 20 people win the Nobel Prize. Just give me one step I can take in the next 15 minutes today, right now, without any raising money, without talking to like anybody else. Like, I want to do this right now. Give me some creative ideas which can help me improve 1% a day. And this way you can start to move towards your goal one step at a time. So that gives you the courage, because even if you fail today, it's not a big deal. And that gives you the courage to continue to take action. So that's the fourth pillar. Okay. And the last pillar is time, or your peace of mind, because we all are so busy doing all this mundane work. So when you start using AI or automation in the right way, it starts to give you like 60, 80, 90% of your time back. And all that time and energy goes right back into thinking big. So these are the five pillars, and this is how it all works, and it works beautifully for individuals, teams, organizations, and we have had so much success. It's almost like, for me, the biggest challenge is it's so good that it's sounds too good to be true. People say, okay, this is not possible.
So no, it definitely, it sounds great. And I wouldn't say that, not that I don't want to say it sounds too good to be true. It just sounds like a lot of work. So the way I would put it is, the first part, talking about putting all of your past, circumstances and things you went through. People don't, I shouldn't say people, but I'd say a decent chunk of people have trouble with therapy because they don't want to open up, right? Just in general. And some of these things that you're going to talk about, or you're going to have to put in there, aren't things that you would want to talk about. And it probably takes some time for one to open up. And because look, you said it, you've done a lot of work in terms of your mental health, right? And this seems like that, which is a great thing, and I think it's very powerful. And for someone like me, I'm all for it. But I think that's going to be one of those things that, like, are you willing to do the work to get to the point where you can start using this twin? But I think it's really really powerful.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. See, human nature is very, very weird. Okay. If we find the deepest gap, the deepest void that we are trying to fill in our soul, we are willing to do anything to fill that gap. Okay. Meaning, you think about people who work in car factories in North America. They have a very repetitive job, very, very repetitive, very mundane job, but they do it because they get the right benefit, they get the right pay, and all of that. Okay. You think about people who enroll in the army. They are willing to bet their life for a cause. There's nothing higher than that, right? So the idea is that people are willing to do the work if you really find a way to tell them, if you want to do this, if you want to achieve your biggest goals, this is the easiest and fastest way, and it's your choice. If you don't want to do it, just like if you want to go from Vancouver to New York, you can walk, which will take you probably a few months. You can take a bicycle, which will probably take you a few weeks, or you can take an airplane, which will take you like 5 hours. Choice is yours, nobody else's. And the other thing is that the humans always react in such a way that whenever a new technology is introduced, they're always afraid of it. They're not willing to change. But as soon as their friend or family start to use it, they feel like, oh, I'm getting left behind, and then that accelerates their adoption. So we are in a very early stage. I agree with you. People are hesitant, but people with drive, people who have a mission, people who want to do something big, and they don't want to lose time to gain an edge, they are doing it.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, I think the difference, it's like, do you want $1 million? Yeah, sure, I want $1 million, but like, do you want $1 million? Right? That's the difference. And it's really funny because the more research I do into success, it really is like, do you want it bad enough?
Yeah.
Right? That it comes down to, because if you want it bad enough, you'll do the other things, right? The research, the learning, the self work, all that stuff. But for most people, the good is good enough that the great isn't as tantalizing, because you have to get rid of the good before you get to the great. And
Absolutely.
that's the tough part.
So if I can speak to that as well, see, the thing is, $1 million, when you start to ask people what, so let's say I give you $1 million, what are you going to do with it? They're like, oh man, like I'm going to go on vacation, I'm going to buy a new car, probably a new home. Okay, you got it now. So you still have like, let's say 600,000 left. What are you going to do? Oh, okay, well, I'm going to help my neighbors, my family. Okay, like I'm going to give you another $1 million now. What are you going to do with it? And so you don't need to go too far. Like after three or four steps, they're like, I don't know, like I don't know what I'm going to do. So the idea is that we don't want $1 million, but we want a meaning in life. Meaning is what we want, and once you start to discover that meaning, no amount of money or no amount of effort is big enough for all of that. So this is a process to find that meaning in your life, and of course, money is a byproduct of all that.
Yeah, that's funny because I was a part of like a sales business in college, and you'd ask someone, and exactly what you said, right? After a point, it's like, okay, I'll buy a private jet. It's like, all right, well, okay, fine. Like, if, because I used to say, if you had all the time and money in the world, and we used to math it and be like, okay, so you can live your entire dream for $10 million, right? But it's not about that. That's exactly what it is. It's about, when you wake up, what do you want that next thing to be? Do you want it to be an alarm? Do you want it to be waking up by family? Whatever it may be. But okay. But I'm going to jump a little bit backwards, back to the AI adoption blueprint. Do you have Can you tell me? You don't have to go into too many details, but like a real world win, and the result that came out of an adoption of this blueprint.
Yeah, so many, one executive actually, he was making decent amount of money. He was making $300,000 a year, and within 2 months he got an offer for 500,000, and then 6 months later a billionaire approached him, offered him $2 million a year. Another financial strategist. She was stressed out, doing so much work. Within 3 months, she reduced her operational cost by 40%. Started sleeping better, having deeper dreams, increased her client base. I don't know, multiples of a percentage. Real estate brokers. I'm working with a. This one is a very cool one. I'm working with a group of day traders. They trade stocks, and stock trading is all about psychology. And so I said to them, hey, give me your lowest performers. Okay. And I started working with the lowest performers. And it took 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks, their identity shifted and they started following the plan. They started doing better in their trading, all of that. And they're like, what the? So, yeah.
That's huge. That's huge. And that's another thing, because I'd say for a lot of people, they want to get technical, but it's much more about what's up here,
Mm.
and not the technical part. It's more so about, self-image and
Mm.
understanding those things. But that's very powerful, because the thing is, when you say a day trader improved based on what we're working on with AI, but also up here, everyone knows that day traders are not about the woo woo, right? They're not thinking about all that
Exactly.
extra stuff.
Mm.
And if they're improving, then there's something there. For the most skeptical person, that's
Absolutely.
a number one thing. So with the idea of creating an AI twin, and with AI in general, right? How do you see the changes in hiring, upskilling? Like how does overall in the landscape of tech, how do you see that change happening?
See, again, I'll give you my perspective. I look at everything from a human lens. So the current situation with recruiting is this. Let's say if I want to hire somebody, I come up with a job description, or most likely I just copy a similar job description, make some changes, post it. I get a bunch of resumes. I say, oh, let me look for these keywords. This person has these skills. And then I set up like 5 interviews. I get like 3 of my top people to interview the person, shortlist, blah, blah, blah. So for an average hire, I will say I have to put in like at least 20 to 25 hours of work of my own time or my senior team's time. At the end of the day, when the person joins, after 3 months, we realize, oh, this person is not a good fit or this person is a good fit. And that is by working with them. Okay. How do we determine whether this person is a good fit or not? Is based on our core values, our belief systems, the way our background works, all of that. So in my world, what we do now when we recruit is, first of all, people don't work for companies, they work for their managers.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do is we say, when you apply for this job, here is the backstory, very similar to this, how we are talking about my backstory. This is the backstory of the hiring manager you will be working with. Now, I want you to listen to it. I want, like, to watch this video, and then share how you felt. What is your story? And if it resonates, they will, like, just pour their heart out. If it doesn't resonate, they'll say, oh yeah, nice story, blah blah blah, like 2 or 3 lines. And what you can do is you can take the transcript of both stories and upload that into an AI and say, hey, find me the top candidates which align the best in terms of their human core values. And this works so beautifully that you can cut out 80 to 90% of your workload in terms of hiring, and put the onus or the responsibility of shortlisting the candidates on the candidate itself. And in as an added bonus, get to know more people deeply. And when they show up on the first day after hiring, they know exactly who they are working for. They know them as a person. The hiring manager knows them as a person, and they get along so well. All of that.
Do you do this just for your company, or do you do this for your clients as well?
Clients as well. I mean, this is the magic where, if you have an open mind, if you have a little bit of an understanding how human works, then people say, "Oh yeah, this is fantastic. Like I really want to experience it." But most people are addicted. They are addicted to complexity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so simple things sound like, are you there?
Yeah, yeah, I'm here. Can can you not hear me? Can you hear me? I can hear and see you.
Yeah,
Yeah, can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I had you. I could hear and see you the whole time.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
um Maybe on my side. So what I find is people are addicted to complexity, and if you come across with a simple solution, they just like, oh, this is, again, my and maybe this is my bias or something, or I've been talking to wrong people or whatever. But by and large, they say, oh, this is too simple. Like, how do I know it works? And some people try it. When they try it, it's like it's a day and night difference.
Yeah, no, it's so my background is in recruiting, so this is very interesting to me. So do you and you know, not to give away how the sausage is made, but do you do like also like if it's a technical role, like a technical screening separately and just add a round
All
or
of
something
that,
like
yes,
that?
all of that
All of
is
that.
true, because see, AI is, again, think, I want to go back. This is not secret sauce. I'm giving away everything. Like, anybody listening to this, they can literally implement it themselves. Okay, so think about it this way: if AI is the sum total of human consciousness, it knows about you, it knows about me, it knows about all the 8 billion people on this planet. Now, I'm severely exaggerating, but I know how life pattern works, and so at some level it is true. It knows about everyone.
Mhm.
And what we are trying to do is, as a search engine, trying to find resonance between two human beings and say, hey, will these two human beings get along or not? And do they have the technical skills required for this job? So we are looking for a fit, and that fit is multidimensional.
Mhm.
So obviously, it can look for the technical um, expertise and all of that, because along with the storyline, we can upload the job description and their resumes, right? So when we receive resumes, we upload the job description, the resume, the storyline of each of the candidates,
Mhm.
and I say, okay, rank them by their resilience, rank them by their hard, kind of like creativity, rank them by their these non technical human values, which earlier it was not possible,
Sure.
and then rank them based on their experience on databases, rank them on their basis of their cloud computing skills, mobile programming, and whatnot, and now give me a rubric that gives me the top 5 candidates that I should consider.
Wow. That's the future. You guys heard it here first. That's really the future. And because I'm for me, it's always thinking like, okay, you know, especially when I think of startups, right? Founder hours are so valuable, right? Founder hours, most of the time, founders actually underestimate their value. I was speaking to someone she's like, oh yeah, my co-founder or the co-founder of the company, he does all the recruiting. He's on LinkedIn for hours, and I'm like, that's a lot of founder hours, and that's not great for the company. And so just thinking about how this can not just founder hour, company hours, right? You're
Absolutely.
talking about your top three, people at your company. That's hours that they're spending. Not saying that they're not going to interview, but still, right? These are hours that are very valuable. And I think most founders, most companies don't realize that the younger your company is, the more valuable each hour of everyone is. Um,
Not only that, like, okay, so it guaranteed to cut down on 80 to 90% of the hiring time costs, but the wrong hire is one of the most costly things you can do to your business,
yeah.
right? So that's even after the interview and all that, you don't know whether it's the right person. But this actually, it doesn't eliminate that risk, but it reduces it quite a bit, because I can, I have real world case studies on how this works so wonderfully well.
And this is I'm not trying to call anyone out, but the funny thing is this also eliminates that, because if you ask them to write it, you might get a ChatGPT
Yeah,
response, you might get a whichever Claude response. If it's a video and it's a natural response from them,
correct.
and because the problem is, at least from my perspective, is because of ChatGPT, we as people who apply feel the pressure, right? Of, oh, I have to write this great paragraph. So you know what? Let me just use ChatGPT because they're going to write it better anyway, whichever it may be. But I think if you allow someone to speak and be natural and even say the ums and the uhs and whichever it may be, that's fine, right? That's completely fine. You can say all those extra filler words and those awkward pauses, because it's not about that. It's about what you're saying. It's not about how you're saying it as much, right? So I think, again, very powerful. Something I might actually reach out to you later, because I want to. This is very, because again, as a recruiter, I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And so the other thing I want to say is, in terms of like the AI fear mongering that happens in terms of, oh, we're going to lose our jobs. So the way that and tell me if I'm wrong, and I'll of course want your experience on this, but the way I've been telling people is, the way that jobs are done are going to change, right? In the sense that, so I'll use recruiting as an example, because it's what I know. A lot of my friends are worried. They're like, well, AI is going to take over recruiting, and you know what? They're not wrong. Not saying that it's fully going to take over, but they're not wrong. There's going to be a change in the way that it's done. But my response was, well, actually, it's going to kind of be like what happened to the assembly line. Rather than one person putting on each a headlight, there's going to be a person sitting there pressing a button, getting it done much faster. So you're going to, instead of having a recruiter handling 20 jobs, they might handle 200 jobs, but the recruiter is going to be there, right? Same as for coding. It's not that coders are gone. It's that their position actually will be much more senior, much more coveted. They're going to make a lot more money. But yes, maybe there's less of them, or maybe you have to transition. But I don't understand the need for the fear mongering, because I feel like we have all sat in front of a computer, even with AI, and we've been like, okay, what next? What do we do? Right? Everyone's felt that. There should be no fear of it taking over, because that what's next question will always be there.
Correct. I think I'll give you a little bit of a different perspective here, right? So jobs are not going anywhere, economy is not going anywhere, people are not going anywhere. The only thing that will happen is people will be making a shitload of money, more money, because let me just first justify that, okay? The wealth of an individual is dependent upon the GDP of a country. So if the GDP of the country is high, then proportionately speaking, everybody gets high income. What is GDP? GDP is number of citizens multiplied by productivity. Okay, so now with using AI, if the productivity goes 100x, 1000x, the GDP of a country will go 100x, 1000x. Okay, so when we have trillions and trillions of dollars in the economy, people will be flooded with cash. So there's not going to be a universal basic income, there's going to be universal high income. Okay, and work will be a choice. Okay, now as a human being, we can dream all we want. We can say, hey, like I want to win a lottery. I want to go sit on the beach and drink pina coladas. I've talked to hundreds of those people who have that kind of money. They cannot sit still. They can go to the beach for maybe a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then they say, okay, now what? So they will always figure out a way to be productive. Humans are a creative species. We are explorers. We want to go into the unknown. Now, regarding the job situation, what will happen is, we talked about earlier going from a job to entrepreneurship and working with multiple companies. That is exactly what is going to happen to each and every job. Every job is going to become a fractional job, because you won't need that many hours to do that much work. So the model already exists. Look at Uber. I don't hire a full-time driver. I just look at an app and I say, hey, I just need to go from this point to this point. And the person says, okay, based on the demand and supply, this is how much it's going to cost you. And off you go. So as a recruiter, you will obviously handle 200 jobs, 2000 jobs. But those jobs itself, those people will be saying, okay, I will work for, 6 companies this week. And I'll give them 2 hours here, 5 hours here, 10 hours here, whatever it is, right? So everybody will become an entrepreneur in that sense.
Yeah, but I think there's the other thing I'll say is, I think that in a lot of these industries, including recruiting, I think AI is being used. The difference is the savings isn't being sent to the consumer yet, right? Right now it's still the same old model. And that shift just needs to happen. Same with Uber. Like back in the day, taxis were very expensive. Uber kind of went back and forth, because they went back and it was very cheap, and now it's the same as taxis again, which again, they're keeping the savings, which, I mean, business is business.
Yeah.
But I think, no, absolutely. I think, so it's funny because you mentioned the universal basic income or high income. It reminds me, so there's a book series called Expanse, where they talk about how, if you do really good in school, you can get a job. But if not, if you don't want to go to college, if you don't want to get a job, you're on the income that the government gives. But if you do good, or you go to the military, then you can go on and get a job, and then you have whatever amounts of money, right? So I think that's, absolutely coming, and it's going to be an exciting time. All right, and so let's see. I got so sucked into, because I'm just thinking in my mind, I was just like, I just think that video, conversation, basically being able for you as an employer to understand people dynamics, that was the missing link. That's 100% been the missing link, which I think is amazing. But what are some, I would say, when it comes to founders, and I want to go to early stage founders, and again, we're going back to the AI, what is a mistake that they do when adopting AI? What is something that, for not even founders, I can say for anyone, because there's a mindset you need to be productive with AI and not just use it to do tasks, because that's like stage 1 or 2. But being productive with AI, there's another leap and bound. What's missing there?
In simple terms, they don't think AI first. Okay, because the thing is, as I said, we are addicted to complexity. We want to use our mind to figure out solutions, and we say, oh, if I figure out a solution, that's how my value will be created. But we are dealing with super intelligence, so whatever you can do, it can do like tens of thousands of percent faster and more accurate. So think AI first. Okay, I want to launch a company. How will AI launch a company? How will AI market this? How will AI manufacture this? And then you say, oh, okay, AI will do this. It cannot do this part, so I will fill in the human part of 20%. So if you start to think like that, your whole perspective changes, and you start to again go back to this paradigm of merging your mind with the AI and utilizing AI for what it is good at, which is coming up with solutions. And business is nothing else but coming up with solutions to people's problems.
Yeah, I think speaking to how much faster AI is than we are, I think it's so disrespectful when AI is like, oh, thought for 4 seconds. I'm like, come on, like, okay, I get it, like you're great, but it's like I put this complicated thing that I think is going to take a long time. So yeah, thought for 3 seconds, and then all right. So, is there anything the way that because you said you've worked with these larger companies, these enterprise, is there anything that they're doing differently than smaller companies, founders, or startups really well?
Unfortunately, it's the reverse, because large companies have really, really, really rigid processes, and they have been around for decades. Okay, so it's like a huge tanker ship that doesn't move direction. Like if they need to move, like they need to plan for months and months and months. And a smaller company or a founder-led company, they can make decisions very, very quickly. So this is the time when the little guy has big advantage, because we can move faster. And that is what I'm trying to empower people with. When we work with smaller companies, they can move fast. They can like double their sales pipeline within weeks. They can do all of these things, and they can start competing with giants now. I mean, that's the reality.
Is that going to change? Do you think the enterprises are going to get either faster, or maybe they're going to become like more, how do I put it? Like maybe they're smaller teams internally, so they can be more agile. Is there any thought of that?
I think smart, the way in my opinion, again, don't quote me on this, but the way I look at it is, I think that the days of these large corporations are over, which are run from top down. I think it will be more of a era of cooperative societies, people who can build larger communities and collaborate very, very efficiently. Those will be the large corporations of tomorrow, not somebody, not corporations run from like a posh office with 10 executives sitting there making decisions, looking at the charts. All of that can be really eliminated by AI. Like seriously, I mean, AI can tell you so much more about your company than you can ever dream to know about. But if you are the type of person who can bring people together, like look at revolutions in the world. They have no technology, they have no nothing. All they have is a passion for a common cause, and they can accumulate millions and millions of people to go stand behind a cause. Similar to the army, similar to other revolutions. I think those type of organizations will be the giant corporations of tomorrow, in my opinion. But you never know how things are going to go.
Yeah. So more like building ecosystems like that. So it's funny. It's kind of like going back in time, because back in the day, your neighborhood had a cobbler, the next neighborhood had a cobbler, and you guys had an ecosystem in town.
Correct.
And that's how. And I was actually thinking about how, like, going forward, similar to what you're saying. It's like, so I had this idea a while ago, and I might still do it, I don't know. But I was like, well, what if like startups, not all, but if you created a community of startups that all bought from each other, right? Because in the beginning, when you're a startup, you need clients. It's like, well, okay, there's that. You're a firm that does accounting.
Yeah.
that company's also a startup, same local agent. Look, they're your client, and you can buy their product anyway. I was like, everyone wins.
Yeah. I mean, there are affiliate communities, there are these models existing, but it's not, it's very fragmented, it's not streamlined. And I think that's what AI will be able to do, streamline all that processes.
It's like BNI. So BNI here, it's more for brick and mortar businesses, right? Where you create a community.
Exactly.
Doing that in a digital sense sounds crazy, but it sounds like a great. You're painting tomorrow in a very nice way, and I think it's so nice to see that, because I think whenever there's an AI conversation, it's always like the good and the bad, where the bad is always really like. It's a lot of fear mongering. Anyway, I think that's the thing.
Most people don't like, again, if you read history, if you read humanity, if you read anthropology, then you can connect the dots. But people, it's not their fault. They are looking at a very small segment of knowledge and drawing conclusions.
Well, also, and I think some of the people also like that it just isn't great for their business models right now. So I think that's a big one where it's like, every industry. I when I speak to people and I'm like, oh, like this functionality is probably like 5 years away. They're like, no, it's sooner. I was like, no, it's sooner, but we're gonna have to fight to get it out there, right? And it's that's gonna be the next extra 5-10 years that we have. I do want to, you mentioned how you think like the time of patents and stuff are over. Well, can you? The trade-off in data privacy and things like that, is there something that we should be thinking about? Should there be more guardrails in that sense? Because I understand about patents, right? I understand about we need, like, at the end of the day, that's fine, but I feel like very much so data privacy is going to be an issue as we move forward, and there will be a point where there isn't any. So
here is what I will say. I mean, privacy is very important. Like, I come from a background in healthcare and education and all of that, where we used to deal with very, very private, sensitive information. So the thing is that the funny thing is that most people don't realize what is data. Data is your value. Data is your wealth. Data is the new gold. So what I find people complain about privacy is they don't understand anything about data or technology. I'll give you an example. I was in the, speaking at the Mensa Foundation. There were like, a lot of like geniuses in the room, and they brought up the same question, like, what about data privacy? I'm like, if you have your grandma's, wedding ring that is so valuable, are you going to put it out there in the open and say, hey, anybody can take it? No, you're going to put it in a safe and you're going to lock it up and you're going to make sure that it is secure. But if you have a pair of socks which are 6 months old, you can put it anywhere. It doesn't matter, right? So you have to understand what is the value of the data that you're dealing with so that you can protect it in a nice way. And then when we are having this conversation, I'm like, how many of you are right now logged into the free internet that is provided by the hotel? Most of them raise their hands. And so the people complaining about data privacy are using public Wi-Fi because they want to save money and have convenience. So they have no kind of, alignment in terms of their understanding of data privacy and their fear of data privacy. So the thing that we need to do is to make people aware of what is data, how to understand the risk, and how to protect it. And that process is not easy. It takes time. People are getting, like, the younger generation is now growing up with data. They are growing up with internet. So they have better understanding of what this is all about. And so these kind of changes don't happen like overnight. They take generations, and we are getting there. And hopefully AI will accelerate that process.
Yeah, and that's the other part of it that people don't think about is, like, you have AI on this side of whatever, data privacy or not data privacy or data mining, all that stuff, but it's also going to be on the other side, right? It's going to be a part of what's protecting your data. And speaking about kids, really quickly, about the next generation, so many people are like, oh my gosh, like, they're going to cheat on all the tests and everything. I was like, I had to stop one, not a friend, but like a senior colleague person. And I was like, wait, do you remember when you were in school? Because up until, I'd say, my generation, calculators in the before middle school, we were like, no calculators.
Yeah.
Teachers would be like, you're not gonna have a calculator in your pocket, right? All that, blah blah blah. And then we started getting calculators, and the same idea, right? Parents like, oh, you're not gonna know anything. The difference is, it's being able to do harder math at a younger age,
Correct.
right?
Exactly.
At the end of the day, that's what the calculator did, and that's what AI is going to do. Because there's a story. There's another. I'm going back and forth because it's just such an
That's fine.
interesting
Yeah.
topic, but. There was one story, I don't know if it's true or not, but like Henry Ford, and they were like, Henry Ford, you don't know anything. You tell me how your combustion engine works or whatever it was. And he was like, okay, hang on a second. He pressed the button. Someone comes and he said, answer this question. And
Exactly.
he's like, yeah, but you're not telling me this. He's like, yeah, I don't need to. I know how to take the company to where it needs to go. I press the button and they can answer all the questions you want. Well, we have that now in our pocket, right? With AI. And then we can focus on the more serious question. And again, it goes back to leadership a little bit, because the edge that entrepreneurs or CEOs had, where they just had to know where the company's going, is now for all of us, where we just need to know where our lives are going, and we don't have to be stuck in the nitty gritty.
Correct. Exactly.
And so you mentioned that you have background experience in like medical field and everything. So there's a few case studies I want to go through, and if these aren't right, just let me know. But is it one that's reducing medication interaction errors in hospital networks? Does that ring a bell?
I have done a lot of work in that field, but not particular. Like I'm not sure if I can actually speak to a specific case study in that.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No. Because I was doing, again. When I do research, I go in and
You have done an amazing, like, honestly, I can commend you on everything that you're saying. Like some of the things even I forgot. So.
No, it's just for me, when I do this, it's very selfish, right? I want to learn, and I just think these conversations are so cool. It's great to share it, but that's what's exciting. All right, and so I'm gonna bring a few more things, and then we'll go towards wrap up. Because I could speak longer, but I want to be very responsible with our time. But can you give me? So we've made a lot of predictions, but if you were gonna do, if you can tell me one sector that you think that right now is being overlooked in terms of its utilization of AI, right? What do you think would be the next disrupted sector, or should be the next disrupted sector?
I think human life is based on few things. One is energy, and some work, I mean, quite a bit of work is being done in energy, but I think the way we capture energy and we produce energy is going to completely shift, with things like fusion reactors and things like that. So it's going to be very soon, it's going to be free energy, like literally, like unlimited free energy. The other thing that I believe human life depends on is creativity and expression of thought. So, expression of thought has been overtaken by social media, which is arguably not the best way of expressing yourself. So, things like traditional arts, music, painting, those type of places, we are not using AI that well yet. We have created tools to, give you some graphics and video and all of that, which is great. But self-expression with real art, real music, I think that's a very underserved area right now. I was in a room with the CEO of Suno, which is a company that creates music with AI. So that's basically just one of the only companies that are focusing on this area. So creative arts, expression, relationships, and that sort of working with the subconscious mind, and that's the area that we focus on, and that's a huge potential. And most people cannot even like go there because they are so kind of engrossed in their own logical mind. These are some of the areas that are like really groundbreaking, which is has a potential to change like how humans actually exist and how they experience life.
All right. Well, y'all heard it here. Make sure you invest in companies that are diving into these, because it's gonna grow. But I do think energy is the one that most people just don't get on what's coming next. I agree with that 100%. When I saw there's the second Spider-Man movie originally, he does a fusion reaction. He's like, I have the power of the sun in the palm of my hand, and it's science fiction, but I'm like, no, that's real. That's
No,
so
no.
real.
Now they, yeah. I mean, you
Yeah.
read the news. The recent one is, I think, Chinese team or some other team. They actually achieved like positive return on fusion reaction. Fusion reaction is real. The only
Yeah.
problem is it takes more energy right now than it outputs. But now
Yeah.
they have, I think they have gotten additional energy. So I think within 10 to 20 years it'll be a reality.
Yeah. Well, we'll add 5 more for corporate
Yeah, yeah.
bureaucracy. All right. And then, so I'm going to jump to, I call this the Dear Tech FAQs, frequently asked questions. And I'm going to start with one that's not on my list, but it's something I want to ask you because you talked about meditation. So can you do a myth about meditation that you would love to bust? Because it's misunderstood and it'd be
Yeah,
great to hear.
people, two usual myths are like, oh, I don't have time, and my mind is too busy to meditate. So when they say I don't have time, I say, oh, if you don't have 20 minutes in your day to meditate, then meditate 60 minutes a day. And actually, this is a saying by Buddha. So I'm just repeating it. And then when they say, oh, I don't have, my mind is not still. So I mean, that's the whole point of meditation to make it still. But the funny thing, you brought up meditation. The whole point of AI merge and how I came about to doing this was because of meditation, because I was advocating meditation to people, and they're like, I don't have time, my mind is not still. So I said, okay, let me figure out a way to use technology to inject this thing in people's minds. And I think one missed point earlier you said was, this sounds like too much work. We make it actually a lot of fun. So it actually is two hours worth of time every week, and we make it fun in the way that we use storytelling, we use music, we use jokes, we use micro conversations to make this happen, because fun is the only way humans learn. Like fun, I mean, that is our core desire, to have fun.
Yeah. Well, and I think the definition of fun transitions as you do more of these things, where you start some things that maybe in the beginning you're not excited about, you start getting excited about because you see the results. No, amazing. What is either the best advice you've ever gotten or your favorite quote, if you can't think of the former?
I think the best advice is, it is what it is. Like, lot of people get anxious about the future, and they are angry about the past, and they never tend to stay in the present. And it's not like I am perfect. I struggle with that myself. But once you truly start to understand life, staying in present and sort of, learning from the past and all of that, it becomes easier.
Absolutely. And what is the best investment you've ever made? And you can define what investment means.
By far, investing in yourself. By far, just invest in yourself.
I
every
love it.
last every last dollar, invest in yourself.
I love it. What is the best thing that you've ever been gifted?
um I will say, like, my sons, not particularly a gift, but they were like a gift. It's a gift from God and everything. I mean, that has been, yeah, life changing for me, for sure.
Amazing. And okay, so there's a billboard or a T-shirt. Billions of people get to see it. What are you putting on there?
You have so much power in every human being. You have so much power, you don't even realize it. Like, you're like a volcano of power waiting to erupt. You just need somebody to, like, come and unlock the valve. And that is where my vision of 20 Nobel Prizes comes in, right?
I love it. And the last one is, what is your favorite book to gift to people?
Principles of Work and Life by Ray Dalio, because it actually talks about how humans behave and all of that.
Awesome. Yeah, that's. I need to go back to that. I've read that when it first came out. That's a great book. Okay, so what's next? What's next for you? What's next for Tetra Noodle?
Yeah, I mean, see, we are helping people adopt AI in magical ways. Magic is the only way I can describe it. I have a nickname that my friends call me magician. So yeah, if people want to gain an edge, or if they want to really unlock who they are as a person, or they want to accelerate their team, they want to take their organization to the next level, my prediction is, and this is Sam Altman's words and many other people's words, $1 billion company is going to be run by one employee by 2030. When we're already seeing that. And those are the kind of things that I like to get involved in, like, really groundbreaking stuff. So if that's the kind of person you are, that excites you, this kind of stuff, then yeah, get in touch. Hit me up on LinkedIn, or visit my website, email me. I'm easy to find, just Google my name. But I want to work on moonshots, and that's what we are working on, like moonshots, cleaning up the oceans, stopping war, like, crazy ideas that will change the world.
I love that. And you answered my question. I was going to say, where do we find you next? But, I'll put your links in my bio, but people can Google you. All right. And is there anything, as we sign off, is there anything that you want to share
No, that's
before we
it.
go?
I mean, this has been a tremendous conversation. You are such a great host. I mean, like you should be pitching to Netflix or like like something like that. Like you are really amazing.
I really appreciate that. And I'm definitely going to use that in the future. But all right, everyone, thank you for listening. And just remember that you are a volcano of potential. Take care.